Give me money, give me money, give me money, give me money, give me money.
You know, out of all the bullshit and fame and misfortune, this line is one I keep coming back to.
Fluttershy is just so painfully shy, it's hard to relate. I mean, come on.
See, for me, Fluttershy is impossible to relate to because I don't have crippling anxiety. In fact, I don't have any insecurities or worries whatsoever. I'm a completely stable and functional individual. Shut up, I am. However, Fluttershy remains one of my favorite characters in the series. This is why relatable isn't enough to judge a character on, because most people can't relate to 90% of characters ever written. All of my favorite characters are characters I cannot relate to. They're characters that are enjoying or otherwise engaging on their own. In fact, many of the things I can relate to, I have often severely criticized for teaching terrible lessons to children because I had a childhood filled with abuse, gaslighting, and neglect, and teaching children to just ignore those things and suck it up when it's happening to them. Well, let's just say if I were the one who had to look over these scripts before approving them, their respective writers would be picking their teeth up off the floor. The thing is, while Fluttershy's crippling anxiety has never been particularly relatable, it's extremely engaging because it creates challenges for Fluttershy to overcome. And there was a lot of opportunity to explore every aspect of that, but for the first 4 seasons, they just didn't. Every Fluttershy episode was always some form of performance anxiety. Many of these episodes were good, like Hurricane Fluttershy, but some of them were really, really bad, like Feely Vanilli. The individual quality of these episodes is one thing, but the fact that this one niche of anxiety was a consistent theme in Fluttershy's episodes made it feel like the writers didn't have much for Fluttershy to do, so they just opted to retread stage fright and be assertive. The thing is, Fluttershy already knows how to be assertive, so episodes should have explored the different ways and different challenges in applying that assertiveness. It Ain't Easy Being Breezy's was about Fluttershy having to learn that sometimes being nice just won't work, and some people will take advantage of you, so you have to be assertive not for your own sake, but for their sake. In order to be kind, sometimes you have to be cruel. This is explored further, rather than simply rehashed, in Flutter Brother, where Fluttershy applies the lessons of It Ain't Easy Being Breezy's when she sees her brother taking advantage of her parents. They won't assert themselves for his own good, so she opts to do it for them. This isn't repeating the lessons of It Ain't Easy Being Breezy's, it's expanding on it in a new environment because Fluttershy already does it at the start of the episode rather than toward the end. Fluttershy doesn't relearn how to assert herself for someone else's benefit, she already learned that and now she has to use it again. Fluttershy Leans In is an episode where Fluttershy has to assert herself or else everyone around her will ruin a project she really wants to do and make it clear that she's the expert and so people should listen to her. She does this twice, first with the experts and again with her friends. If she doesn't assert herself, her sanctuary is ruined. It's the difference between learning to be assertive and summoning the willpower to apply it. A simple idea that leads into different themes in different areas of Fluttershy's anxiety. To move to another theme, Scaremaster is an episode where Fluttershy isn't having to learn to assert herself or tackle her performance anxiety, but rather is just extremely uncomfortable with a holiday centered entirely around trying to scare people, which would, of course, drive her absolutely batty, no pun intended. She opts to try setting up a scare for her friends, but she hates it because she doesn't like being scared, and so scaring other people isn't something she likes either. This is a different area entirely because this is an aspect of her anxiety that she doesn't really need to mitigate, but the real issue is potentially disappointing her friends. Even if they're not actually that disappointed, that worry is still in her head, and it's what motivates her to try Nightmare Night. And the end result is, I tried it, I still don't like it. And the fact that she tried it all is what shows her growth, because if this were season 3, this wouldn't have happened without someone forcing her into everything. The problem with the first 4 seasons rehashing Fluttershy's performance anxiety, and she needs to learn to be assertive, is that it quickly gets old. It's not a matter of expecting a character to completely change their entire being in one sitting, it's a matter of a story idea getting boring with repetition, especially with Hurricane Fluttershy and Feely Vanilli tacitly implying that Fluttershy needed to be medicated. And in season 5, they stopped having her relearn assertiveness and stopped rehashing that she has stage fright. Fluttershy did not need to overcome her stage fright anyway, that's not a pressing issue. It's very easy to avoid stages for your entire life, that's not something she needed to overcome. But knowing when to put her foot down to her friends, people who might take advantage of her, channel Flutter Bitch for someone else's own good, those were all things she did need to learn and were really interesting. And from It Ain't Easy Being Breezy's onward, they started doing that, and Fluttershy quickly became the most interesting member of the main cast, even though the thing that defined her, her anxiety, never actually went away, despite many people thinking that's what I wanted to happen. What I wanted was for Fluttershy to start applying her lessons, not relearning them over and over again, because one lesson has multiple ways to apply it, and that'll expand on her character and stays fresh and interesting. Learn the lesson once, then learn all the ways in which to apply it, and then have applying it be the inciting incident for other people's stories. That's a good way to keep your story ideas nuanced and not feel like you're just repeating yourself over and over and over again. And they did that, and I love it. Fluttershy episodes used to be episodes I would dread, and these days are the episodes I look forward to the most. When I see the next video on my schedule as a Fluttershy episode, it's the best workday for me. Trying to turn it around into some philosophical point about changing who you are being gradual is to refute a completely different criticism that was never actually made. DHX did the same thing that Fluttershy's most aggressive fans did by inferring criticism of the character, when in reality it was criticism of the story. Remember what I said about Celestia's status as an ineffectual leader being story problems that existed independent of her character? Same idea. But what I find most interesting is all this talk about how Fluttershy couldn't be expected to change overnight, because changing overnight is exactly what she did. Between Feely Vanilli and It Ain't Easy Being Breezy's, Fluttershy became a completely different character. In fact, she's the only character to get a soft reboot like this. Fluttershy's crippling levels of anxiety completely vanished from her character with the sole exception of Nightmare Night, and she was universally characterized as a snark, a rather cool-headed voice of reason, and a complete and total hard-ass, a sort of magical science daughter between General Leia and Captain Janeway. There really was no room for gradual change here. The writers just decided to stop writing Fluttershy in a way that was extremely toxic and discouraging and start writing her in a way that was fun. And even among fans that thought her previous characterization was relatable, it seems to be agreed that not only is new Fluttershy better, she's the best character in the series. This new Fluttershy is a lot more active. Her defining moments are not few and far between, and more the result of her wit than her anger-induced meltdowns. We're seeing a lot less Flutter rage and a lot more Flutter dry.
Unless you're afraid they won't like you.
And it's not just her ability to steal the show. Fluttershy's new characterization opens the opportunity to do more with her because her overwhelming nervousness isn't something that the writers have to account for anymore. It's not just Flutterbrudder, It Ain't Easy Being Breezy's Fluttershy Leans In and A Health of Information that makes Fluttershy an amazing character. Episodes like Discord and Harmony, Viva Las Pegasus, The Hooffields and McColts, and Buckball Season, where Fluttershy is playing support to other characters, are often memorable entirely because of the things she's doing. Even just that one moment in Viva Las Pegasus where the camera pans over to show Fluttershy pressing down the intercom and then she grins like a little shit. That's amazing! Or in Buckball Season, where Pinky is the one behaving like pre-Season 5 Fluttershy, and Fluttershy just looks at her with this really concerned expression before stepping in like, I fucking got this, mate. By dropping this previously restrictive aspect of her personality, Fluttershy became far more versatile as a character and quickly became the highlight of the entire show. In fact, I find it weird that Fluttershy even took part in We're Not Flawless, because she is effectively flawless. She doesn't have a vice that can potentially be used to drive a conflict like Rainbow's ego, or Applejack's extreme stubbornness, or Twilight's fanaticism, or Rarity's vanity, or Pinky's overbearing behavior, or Starlight's existence. Fluttershy is the only one of the main cast that can be said to have her shit together. And that's actually a really good thing because she can theoretically fill any role, and the writers, for all their failings in other areas, have consistently taken advantage of that to continue doing really cool and interesting things with Fluttershy. And Fluttershy continues to be the shining example I use when I talk about Hasbro's overindulgence on bad ideas, because when they stopped abusing this bad idea for Fluttershy, suddenly we got a lot of really interesting and cool things done with her that made the very name Fluttershy episode immediately provoke excitement because I wonder what they're gonna do this time. It's the same principle as Luna, Villain Redemptions, and Lore. I never hated Fluttershy, I hated how the writers were previously using her in the same dull and played out way every single time. When they stopped doing that, her episodes were consistently some of the best episodes ever written. A Health of Information is still the only Pillars of Equestria episode from season 7 that was actually good explicitly because the writers used lore to complement a story rather than just dump information into the wiki. Yeah, that's right. Fluttershy's very presence warped reality until lore was being used in a way that was actually interesting. And maybe, if you're very, very good, Fluttershy will come and grace your episode during the night and make it unique and interesting and fix all of your terribly rehashed ideas until her feet don't touch the ground and the sun shines out of her eyes like a warm summer's day. That got weird on me. Maybe I should stick to being relentlessly critical.